Hey everyone, today, we are exploring the Lahore. Oh man, if you've ever seen one in person, you know what I mean. It's such a striking pigeon, strong, graceful, and with that absolutely stunning marking. But what exactly makes a Lahore look right, you know? Let's break it down together so by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for when judging or breeding this amazing bird. Okay, first things first, the Lahore is a big, powerful pigeon, but it doesn't really show off like, say, a Strasser. It's kind of similar in size and weight to a Coburg lark, but a bit shorter, with a broader, deeper chest. The key word here, harmony. It shouldn't look too long or too short. Experienced breeders can spot a well-balanced Lahore right away, no question. If the body's too long, you'll often see drooping wings and narrow flight feathers. Too short, and the whole look just feels off. So yeah, the German standard drawing? That's really your go-to reference for ideal proportions. The bird's stance should be almost horizontal. From the shoulders down to the tips of the wings, the back line should slope just a touch. The tail? Carried straight out, nice and level. If it stands too steep or too low, that balance gets thrown off. Ideally, the Lahore stands at a medium height, not too high, not too low. Again, harmony, that's the magic word here. Now, let's talk about the body itself. The neck, medium length, strong, and just the right curve. A neck that's too long or thin, or too short and chunky, doesn't really suit this breed. It should curve back slightly, giving the bird a proud, confident look. Then there's the chest, broad, deep, nicely rounded. You want that sense of mass right in front of the wing arches. Naturally, a broad chest means broad shoulders and a wide back that only narrows slightly toward the tail. The wings should be wide, well closed, and resting neatly on the tail. The tail itself, medium length, with broad feathers that fit tightly together. The back should look nicely covered, though sometimes it's not. If it appears open, it might be because the tail's too narrow or wide, or the wings just don't close properly. And the feathers soft, full, lying smoothly but not too tight. You want that overall impression of fullness and neatness without stiffness. Alright, moving up to the head. The strong neck flows into a large, broad, nicely rounded head. The top should be full and curved, but not like a perfect ball, you know? The forehead should rise steeply. A flat top just doesn't look right. And one thing to keep in mind, females shouldn't have that distinctly masculine head shape. The beak, strong, medium length, not long and thin. There's often a bit of debate about beak color. Ideally, it's light, but hey, if a young bird has a bit of pigment on those small, smooth wattles, that's totally fine. In fact, that's usually a good sign. It often means the bird will have a strong, well-defined mantle pattern and won't grow unwanted white feathers above the beak. By the second year, that pigment tends to disappear anyway. The eyes are dark, that's standard, and the eye rims should be red for all color varieties. For the blue-colored Lahores, though, we can be a little more forgiving. Even though bright red rims look striking, remember, the Lahore is first and foremost a form pigeon. Shape and balance come before color details. The eye rim should be narrow and single, not double. Now, let's look at the feet. Compared to the old days, the Lahore's foot feathering has become fuller and more developed. Makes sense, since the modern bird itself is bigger and heavier. Light feathering or just a bit of fluff on the legs doesn't really fit the look anymore. A proper Lahore stands proudly at a medium height on its feet, with medium length, dense, and well-closed leg feathers. They are hawk feathers, should be clearly visible. What's most important is that the inner toes are well covered and the feathering forms a neat, rounded shape. Better that than long, loose feathers that don't close properly. Alright, now we get to the part that really makes the Lahore stand out, the pattern. This design is what gives the bird its special charm. The colored part starts at the corners of the mouth, runs across the head above the eyes, down the back of the neck, and over the shoulders in a clean, even line. The upper back can show a colored bridge, and the entire wings are colored too. Everything else, throat, front of the neck, chest, belly, leg feathers, tail, and lower back, should be pure white. The head pattern is super important. From the mouth corners, a white band curves nicely above the eyes toward the white throat. The eyes are surrounded by white feathers, while the forehead, crown, and neck are colored. If that white band's too wide, the colored forehead gets too narrow, and you might even get a snip, white feathers right above the beak. That's a serious fault and tends to pass on genetically, so those birds shouldn't be used for breeding unless they're outstanding in other ways. On the other hand, a narrow white band is fine. Even a thin white line above the eyes can look great, and usually comes with a broad, well-defined forehead marking, which is awesome for breeding. Now, the mantle pattern, that's the colored area across the back and shoulders, is one of the toughest things to perfect. Breeding a Lahore with a flawless mantle pattern? Yeah, not easy. You'll often get youngsters with white flight feathers or colored tail feathers, and those can't be shown. These faults are strongly hereditary, too. Ideally, the colored mantle starts broadly just behind the eyes and continues evenly down to the wing arches. In practice, though, a broad mantle often means the white head band gets too narrow or disappears, or the color spreads too far down onto the chest or belly. Experienced breeders usually pair birds with too much color to those with a narrower mantle pattern to balance things out. Birds with strong type and a little extra color are actually super valuable in breeding because the white areas tend to expand naturally over generations. Now let's talk color. Up until right after World War II, the Lahore was mainly a color pigeon, but those early black, red, and yellow birds weren't very shiny. It wasn't until the 1970s that breeders really nailed those deep, glossy tones. These days, a dull black or matte red or yellow bird? Nah, that won't cut it in shows. Even for the non-glossy varieties, the goal's always a clean, even tone. The black variety is the most popular, probably because of that strong contrast between the white base and the black mantle. The quality of black Lahores today is insanely high. At club shows, judges often struggle to rank the top birds because there are so many good ones. You'll see young birds with perfect proportions, neat red-eye rims, and well-rounded foot feathering. The only recurring issues? Sometimes back coverage or tail carriage. The red and yellow varieties are often bred by the same fanciers and can even be crossed with each other. Both should have an even, deep, glossy color, including the flight feathers. The most common problems are patchiness, and stains in the wing shields and hairy feathers in the band area. In reds, the tail feather structure can sometimes be criticized, while in yellows, especially males, there's sometimes a lack of chest fullness. The silver variety, oh wow, that one's really eye-catching, but tough to perfect. The color should be pure and even, which is tricky to achieve and even harder to maintain. These birds often have slightly smaller bodies and less head volume than the glossy colors, so breeders often cross in black birds to strengthen type. But then, yeah, it takes several generations to get the color pure again. Judges should also remember that silver hens are naturally a bit darker. That's just genetics. Same goes for the blue varieties. Speaking of blues, whether plain, barred, or checkered, they've made great progress lately, both in popularity and quality. Their feathers tend to be smoother and tighter, so you see fewer problems with open backs or tail shape. The eye rim color still isn't as intense as in other varieties, but it's getting better every year. And finally, the rare colors, dun, ash red, and ash yellow. These should be judged with care and appreciation for the breed. The German standard even describes the ideal dun color as a grayish-brown base with evenly distributed yellowish shading. The downside? These birds often have looser feathering and tails. Still, their body type and eye rim color are usually excellent. The ash red and ash yellows often have a great overall shape and stance. But yeah, their color and pattern purity still need a bit of work. How to prepare a Lahore for the show? Finding a perfectly marked Lahore pigeon is almost as rare as hitting the jackpot in the lottery. I mean, the pattern from the beak corners down to the shoulders? It's never naturally perfect. That's why breeders, have to step in and tidy things up a bit. They'll use these tiny nail scissors to carefully trim any feathers that mess with those clean color lines, cutting them right down to the base. The goal is to get the smoothest, most precise outline possible. But here's the catch. You can't just chop across the feathers anymore. That's not allowed in shows these days. When you're grooming, the pigeon can either sit on a stand or rest gently on your lap, head facing you. You start right at the base of the beak, move over the top and back of the head, and then work your way toward the wing arches. Luckily, the Lahore's a calm bird, kind of chill, actually, so it usually tolerates all this trimming pretty well. Still, don't wait until the last minute before a show, okay? Take your time. Do it in peace, maybe even in 2 rounds. The first round's for the main work, and the second one, that's your finishing touch. So, is the Lahore a good breed for someone just starting out? Well, yes and no. It's not exactly the easiest pigeon to win big with right away. Only a small number of the young birds you raise will actually be good enough for exhibitions. But hey, if you're genuinely interested and you've got some guidance, maybe from a local club or an experienced Lahore breeder, then this breed can really capture your heart. They'll show you how to pair your birds, how to groom them properly, and before you know it, you might be hooked for life. On the loft, Lahores are peaceful, trusting, and not at all quarrelsome. Great parents too. They brood diligently and raise their chicks without much fuss. And since you can select for the right markings early on, your loft doesn't get overcrowded with young birds. Now let's talk history, because the Lahore's got quite a story. This breed's famous all over the world, except, interestingly enough, in India. Indians who saw the Lahore abroad admired it, sure, but they didn't really see it as one of their own breeds. Old pigeon literature often mentions the region around Lahore, which is now in Pakistan, as the place where this breed originated. But that's not entirely accurate. What is true, though, is that several ancient Indian pigeon breeds played a big role in developing the Lahore. There's the small Sheriji pigeon. It can have feathered or unfeathered feet. Then the heavier smooth-legged Gola, and the always feather-footed, multicolored Bahasha pigeon. The Sheriji was especially influential because of its strong pattern, very similar to the Lahore. That dominant pattern really helped shape what we now recognize as the Lahore. Around 1850, when Pakistan was under British rule, these breeds were brought to Europe by the English, and by about 1880, they were already being shown in Germany. The Germans, oh boy, they really took the lead in refining the breed. In 1911, they even founded a special club and set the first official breed standard. The English, by the way, were the ones who gave the breed its name, the Lahore. After World War II, the Lahore was officially reclassified from a color pigeon to a form pigeon, mainly because it had finally developed enough body volume. Since the founding of the special club, Lahores have always had a strong presence at major exhibitions. In Germany, for example, the annual club show still attracts between 400 and 500 birds each year. There are also national Lahore clubs in France, the Netherlands, England, and the United States. So yeah, It's not that the breed's rare or too complicated. It's just that breeding perfect show-quality Lahores is tricky business. But for breeders who love a challenge and enjoy learning, the Lahore can become a lifelong passion. And when it comes to preparing them for shows, it's all about having a delicate touch, that fingerspitzengefühl, as the Germans say. But don't worry, experienced breeders are usually more than happy to help out, with advice, demonstrations, and sometimes even a pair of scissors. Did you find this interesting? Then be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos about our special pigeon breeds. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.